welcome back. This is part 2 of the first video that I did using the stenciled backgrounds that we made. If you have not seen part 1, I will put a link up here in the corner so you can go back and watch that one. For this card, we're going to make this very fun acetate tent fold card. You'll see it all come together. It's a really fun and cute card to make. Let's get started. So, alrighty, here we go. We're going to jump right into the second card. Okay, so this card we're going to use the fun deco wallpaper stencil that we used or that we made. And then you're going to need a piece of acetate. This piece of acetate that's here in this clip is not the one I'm going to use, so we'll get to that in a minute. But you're going to need a piece of cardstock 4 1/4 by 9 3/4. And we're going to make a tent card, and I'm sure that you've probably seen this done before. It was new to me, so I figured I would just go ahead and share it in case you haven't seen it. So we're going to score it at 1 3/4, 7 1/4, 8 1/4, and 9 1/4. I had to break out my big scoring board for this card. Super simple, right? Okay. So we'll set that off to the side really quick. And I'm going to take our decorative panel that we have, our stenciled panel. This is the one that we did by running it through the embossing machine. So like I said, you can go back and watch those videos again to see exactly how we made those panels. So I'm going to cut this into 3 different pieces that we're gonna use. The first one is going to be, I'm going to leave the width the same. I'm just going to cut different strips. So this first one will be, we're going to cut it at 1 1/2. So the total measurements, it's 1 1/2 by 4. I'm just going to, because that's going to go on the top, our top flap that we're going to create here in a minute. I'm going to use that, set that off to the side. And then I came in and I cut a 1/4 inch off the bottom. I probably could have cut it a little bit bigger, but I just used it. I just did a 1/4 inch. That's going to go down there at the very bottom of the card. Okay, so this is the outside of the card. So I'm going to lay down. I'm going to add some adhesive to this little panel right here. This is the 1 3/4 score area. So you can see I'm going to add that. That's why I cut it to 1 1/2 because that panel is 1 3/4. So it's like a 1/4 inch smaller. So there we go. I'm just going to lay that down there. And then this will be, we're going to fold that down. So that's why that's on the outside of the card. So we're going to flip it over and we're going to work on the inside of the card. And I just have this is a 4 by, it ended up being like 4 by 5 3/8. It's the same width as the stenciled panel piece. It's just a little bit less than 5 1/2. So just going to add that into the center here. You could add, a piece of pattern paper. You can make a decorative panel. But I needed something behind there other than just the stenciled panel. So that was what I did. And then I added that little 1/2 inch down there at the bottom on the outside as well. I forgot to do it earlier, so I did it kind of off camera. So now we're going to continue to work on the inside. We're going to add some double-sided adhesive to the inside of the top flap. And I think I tried to tear it and it didn't tear. So I just cut that. I cut some strips and I'm just going to add that right in there along the top. So while I'm doing this, I will let you know that this card took me longer to make than it needed to, because what I didn't realize was that I wasn't using a, a piece of acetate that was heavy enough. So, hear my words. If you're going to make a card like this, use a heavy weight acetate. We'll get more into that in a minute, but you'll see here in a minute that what I have is not what it ends up being. So just, um, you know, stand by. Okay. So I went ahead and I'm gonna, oh, and then I added another piece down there at the very bottom. That's what our acetate is going to adhere to help make our tent. So I went ahead and I peeled up the adhesive, and this is still when I thought I was going to use the acetate that I originally had planned. And I swear, release paper on adhesive is the bane of my existence. It takes forever sometimes. All right, so finally got that peeled off of there, maybe. Okay. So you'll see there's a piece of acetate there. That is not the one that ends up getting used, but I wanted to show you how I attached the other part of the stencil panel. I wanted it to line up with the top piece that we had there. So I'm just going to take my pencil and I'm just going to I made a little tiny mark at the bottom edge of that flap there. And then I can come in and I can add my the other piece of my stenciled panel that we had left over. And that's going to be on the inside there. I wanted the pattern, that geometric pattern to continue and to line up. So I just kind of put that flap down a little bit so that I could see where to um, line that up. And I just push that down. Okay. So, and then I thought at first it was crooked, but it wasn't. So I just left that alone. Okay. So I had to take off that other piece of acetate. And the reason why is because when I started putting the card together, it wouldn't stand up. It kept falling down. And I couldn't figure out why until I realized that I just wasn't using a heavy enough piece of acetate. The first piece that I had was just like, it was like a storage, like a very thin film, storage film that I store some of my stamps in. This one is actually a cut up Hero Arts storage envelope. If you have like window sheets or anything that is just thick, because otherwise the back side of the card is going to be too heavy and your card isn't going to stand up. So make sure and take the time and find a heavier acetate to use. So I'm going to take, and that piece of acetate is cut to 4.5 by, or 4.25 by 5.5. So I'm going to take the top edge and I'm going to line it up with that top score fold right there at the very top there. And then I'm just going to lay down that top flap onto the acetate and get a good seal on that. Okay, so at the bottom, I did an accordion fold. You just fold up, fold over, fold again. So that's easy to figure out. I did that with the other part of the acetate that didn't work. So you lay down, so it goes in and then over and then back again, and you'll lay down the acetate. You want to make sure that when you lay down your acetate that it's going to lay flat so that your card doesn't bow out. So once I knew, you may have to trim your acetate a little bit if you've cut it incorrectly, maybe up to like 1/8 of an inch. Mine seemed like it was going to be okay. So I'm going to I'm going to hold the acetate, the card flat, and I'm going to pull up this release paper And then I'm gonna just fold that over and that, get a good seal on that. And that's going to give us sort of our basic structure of our card. And you can see it was kind of hard to figure out how to show it with the overhead angle. But like I said, I'll have all those at the end of the video as well. So now we're going to decorate the front of the card. I have this die cut that was left over from a other project that I didn't use, and so it went with the card, so I just grabbed it. This is a die cut that came in my secret garden retreat from Altenew. It is the Tile and Blooms or the Bloom die set. Came with 3 pieces. It was a white piece, a vellum piece that I colored the same way I did the flower in the first one, and then it has like an outline die that goes with it. So I just attached those all together and also had a piece of double-sided adhesive, just as I did in the previous video. It just worked out well because I knew um, I didn't want to have to mess around with like liquid glue in this instance because it was a little bit of a more delicate and larger die cut. So now I'm just going to lay this down, figure out where I want that to go on the front of my panel here. And I kind of just took my time. Again, when you're using double-sided adhesive, you just make sure it's where you want it to be, because once it's down, it's down. You're not going to be able to peel that back up. So I just got a good seal on that, and you can see how it is all starting to come together. It's just a fun way, a fun, creative card. And then we'll work on our sentiment. Next, I had a die cut that I used. This is from Spellbinders. I'm not sure exactly what set it is. I'll have that in the description as well. I cut 3 of them out of gold cardstock. The same, this is the gold version of the silver that I used in the first video, and then I just stacked them all together. I'm gonna run this because it's a little more of a delicate die cut. I'm just gonna use my Xyron and run that through. Again, I didn't want to use liquid adhesive. um, I could have used the double-sided adhesive sheets, but I just figured this would be a little bit quicker, so I'll just push that down. It ended up leaving a little more adhesive than I wanted it to on there, but because the acetate is clear, it worked out okay. But I'll peel that off. And then when I came off, I just noticed that it had a lot of excess. So I tried to kind of just peel away as much of it as I could, but I wasn't super worried about it, like I said, because the adhesive is clear and the acetate is clear, and you know, once you put it on there, you're not gonna see it too much. But I did try to clean it up a little bit as much as I could, and then like I said, then I just didn't worry about it too much. Okay, so I'm gonna come in, I'm just gonna lay this right down onto that front panel, that in there, just like that. And you can see when we lay the card flat, it looks very pretty. It's just a unique way to have a card with some acetate on it. It's called a tent fold card. Just a creative, something a little extra, something a little different. You might also want to consider placing a piece of cardstock on the back of the card for a personal message. Because of the structure of this card, you're not really going to be able to put a message on the inside, so just take that into consideration. Here are some final close-up pictures of this card. I really enjoyed making this. It was a lot of fun. I hope you give it a try as well. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you again next time.